Amelia Harper's life glitters like a Malibu sunset. A billionaire husband, a seaside mansion, and a baby on the way. But beneath the surface, her heart trembles with doubt. Whispers of a name, Valentina, haunt her, mingling with late-night calls and a stranger's scent on his clothes. Is her fairy tale a cruel illusion? As secrets unravel, Amelia's quiet strength ignites, crafting a daring escape that could topple an empire. Will she reclaim her life, or forgive the unforgivable? All right, my dear viewers, brace for a jaw-dropping tale. Take a second to like, subscribe, and comment below. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. It's always thrilling to see who's joining us from around the globe. The camera flashes erupted in a continuous staccato as Amelia glided down the red carpet beside her husband Julian Cross, the most powerful man in Los Angeles' tech world. Draped in a resplendent Gucci gown, its satin shimmered like moonlight cascading over her 8-month pregnant form. Each step she took felt like a symphonic crescendo, the sequined hem of her dress winking at the paparazzi with every graceful turn. The Dolby Theater seemed to ignite not merely at her celebrity, but at the sight of a mother to be radiating an elegant, sovereign grace that left onlookers breathless. Julian never let his gaze stray from her, though 100 lenses were trained on them. He wore a classic black tuxedo, its tailored lines sculpting his tall frame. His hand settled gently on Amelia's small of her back, stroking it as if to affirm that this moment was no dream. His smile brimmed with tenderness. His eyes glowed with the pride of a husband and almost father. Yet, even in that dazzling moment, a flicker of something unspoken, elusive passed through his expression, planting a seed of doubt in Amelia's heart. To the soft strains of the fundraising gala's orchestra, they entered the main hall hand in hand. Applause thundered like rainfall, an ovation to their pinnacle of power and status. Admirative glances followed them to the front row reserved exclusively for the city's most esteemed couple. Amelia's mind drifted to the countless nights they had spent debating technological visions, recalling the fierce sparkle in Julian's eyes when they plunged into a new cross-tech venture that would make his name. Yet, after only a few steps in that grand foyer, the warmth she once felt in Julian's touch turned rigid and possessive. He squeezed her fingers just a bit too tightly. The diamond on his wedding band caught the spotlight and flashed, but the pressure made Amelia's breath hitch. In that pinch, she recognized the hollowness that had crept between them. She wondered, was her joy nothing more than a meticulously crafted tableau for the world's acclaim? Leaving the main stage, they traversed the corridor toward the reception. Julian paused, his gaze straying toward affluent residents and business magnates offering congratulatory handshakes. Only then did he return his attention to Amelia, smoothing her dark hair as if she were a prized exhibit. She noticed the card Valentina Maroa, formidable interior designers, slipped into his hand, accompanied by whispered promises of lucrative collaboration. It was ambition, raw and unvarnished, reflected in Julian's narrowed eyes. On the sleek black Bentley ferrying them home to their hilltop estate, the atmosphere felt dense as morning fog. The car door closed with a soft thud. Ocean breezes drifted through the slight opening, yet the cabin remained suffocating. Amelia leaned against the leather seat, one hand cradling the curve of her gown-hidden belly. She exhaled slowly, trying to dissipate the tension, yet the distance between them stretched endlessly. Julian did not switch on the radio, nor did he utter a single word. A heavy, suffocating silence. Headlights flickered past the window, painting slender streaks of light across Julian's angular profile. Amelia imagined him poring over profit margins and midnight negotiations rather than savoring this moment when they were about to welcome their first child. Her heart trembled. Had love ceded its place to ambition, to power? The warmth and security that once enveloped her had become a question mark. When the Bentley finally halted at their mansion, Julian stepped out first, opening the door for her. He offered the guards a respectful nod, then trailed silently behind. The echo of his footsteps on the marble corridor underscored a stark realization in Amelia's mind. Beneath that flawless facade lay a man growing distant. She resolved, then and there, to confront him, to lift the gilded curtain and reclaim the intimate connection they had lost. Yet, as she paused at their bedroom door, Amelia understood that happiness cannot be confined by power or prestige. Only thrives when two hearts beat in genuine harmony. In that vulnerable instant, she vowed not to let the external glitter drown out the whispered truths of her own heart. The headlights and staccato flashes erupted in a dazzling rhythm as Amelia Cross swept into the grand ballroom. Her 8th-month pregnant form draped in a silk gala gown that clung to her curves like a second skin. Each layer of diaphanous satin flowed around her silhouette like ribbons of moonlight, catching the spotlight and scattering it in 1,000 glittering facetsan image of regal femininity and power that the fashion cognoscenti had been waiting to behold. Yet, amid the effervescent hum of the Dolby Theater's charity gala, an invisible whirlwind drew Amelia's attention away from her own splendor the moment Valentina Moreau appeared. Valentinoth, undisputed queen of Los Angeles interior, advanced with unshakable poise, her honey-blonde hair cascading in liquid waves that shimmered under the lights, and eyes as sharp as freshly forged steel. She wore a scarlet gown cut with daring precision at the waist and neckline, revealing flawless porcelain skin that shone like a rare gem among the bejeweled guests. The instant their gazes met, Amelia felt a subtle charge in the air. Valentina was not just breathtakingly beautiful. She exuded an aura of irresistible authority that caused every head in the room to pivot her way. With a languid grace, Valentina reached out and claimed Julian's elbow, addressing him as, "My love." The words, silky and laden with implication, sent a jolt through the entire audience. For Amelia, that tender form of address felt like a dagger's twist in her chest. Valentina's manicured hand glided to rest on Julian's broad shoulder, brushing lightly as though he were the crown jewel in her private collection. Her full, crimson lips curved into a knowing smile, and her proud, challenging gaze flicked to Amelia with an unspoken message. "He belongs to me." Julian, resplendent in a classic black tuxedo, appeared momentarily unmoored by Valentina's forward intimacy. He forced a laugh, warm, unguarded, the very sound of relaxation that he had not reserved for Amelia in months. That unexpected note of ease pierced Amelia's heart, causing her spine to tighten. She realized, in that instant, that her husband's eyes no longer held the yearning tenderness directed solely at her. Instead, they burned with a new, fervent desire for this striking interloper. The moment stretched and elongated, as if time itself hesitated. Valentina cocked her head slightly and teased Julian with a half-truth, half-challenge. "Julian, you know I admire Amelia's classic elegance, but you and I both know it only I inspire you fully." Her voice held a provocative lilt, brimming with confidence and a faint undercurrent of mockery. The elite guests surrounding them broke into a soft chorus of delighted laughter. Julian leaned in, hanging on every syllable, as though Valentina's words were the gospel. Amelia stood motionless, her gaze fixed on the entwined pair, assaulted by a tide of abandonment. Memories of romantic dinners and whispered promises flooded her mind, now reduced to faded images of a love that once felt unbreakable. Every laugh that Julian now shared with Valentina drove a new fissure through her heart, sowing seeds of doubt and humiliation. She gripped her delicate clutch so tightly that her knuckles whitened, her nails digging into her palm as she struggled to contain the whirlwind of emotion threatening to overwhelm her. Valentina finally withdrew, gliding away from her role as perfidious guest to face Amelia with a self-satisfied half-smile. "Hello, Amelia." She purred, her tone warm, yet dripping with challenge. "I look forward to collaborating on your new villa's decor." Her words brushed against Amelia's awareness, like a feathered warning. Could she really hold on to the heart of the man she was about to bring a child into the world with? Amelia nodded, plastering on a courteous smile. yet her pulse thundered. She remembered the gleaming diamond ring Julian once pressed onto her finger, and the whispered vow, "I will always cherish you, above all else." And now, here he was, smiling at Valentina, taking another woman's hand, while leaving Amelia stranded in the cavernous room, an elegant portrait devoid of substance. The orchestra swelled, pouring forth its triumphant strains as the evening wore on. Valentina gave Amelia one last gracious nod before melting back into the stream of refined guests, leaving Julian to trail behind her. In that charged stillness, Amelia realized that no amount of external splendor could bridge the widening chasm in their hearts. She drew in a steadying breath, her hand resting over her rounded belly, as though channeling courage through the life she carried within. Ahead lay another test of their marriage. She must speak her truth, confront her fears, protect the fragile love and the family that was taking shape. Amid the echoing laughter and the fading chords of charity, Amelia resolved she would no longer drift through her husband's life like a ghost. She would stand her ground, wield both heart and mind to reclaim their love, and she would remember, long after the gala lights dimmed, that power and position mean nothing compared to the simple, unwavering sincerity of two hearts beating in unison. Night had fallen deep when the soft, amber light filtering through the glass panes guided Amelia back into the hushed expanse of their hilltop estate. The door clicked shut behind her, sealing off the clamorous pulse of Los Angeles as if it belonged to another realm. Yet the instant she stepped into the grand foyer, she inhaled sharply, and the heady, intoxicating scent of oud seized her senses. It was not the familiar warmth of Julian's cologne, nor her own delicate jasmine perfume. It was the unmistakable essence of Valentina Bold, untamed, provocatively lingering on her husband's expensive coat. Amelia's heart splintered into a million glittering shards. No script had prepared her for this moment. The woman she had trusted above all her partner in bringing new life into the world had become a stranger overnight. The night's dew hung on the window outside, blurring in time with the tumultuous pounding of her own heart. Her trembling hand retrieved the sleek box of car keys. The cold metal brushed her pinky like a silent warning of secrets soon to be laid bare. Gathering her resolve, Amelia closed her tear-brimmed eyes, then gently swept her fingers across Julian's phoneth repository of their hidden lives. She recalled his vow. "Our wedding date is the only password. That way, only you can unlock it." Today, that pledge had become a double-edged blade, slicing open her world. The screen sprang to life, revealing the familiar string of digits. In one breathless moment, the truth spilled out. The first message glowed in vivid blue. "You look so irresistible in that sheer ensemble tonight. I can't wait to feel you." It hit her like ice water poured over her soul. Amelia exhaled, struggling to keep her vision clear, and scrolled on. There was Valentina in crimson lace lingerie, set against the sumptuous backdrop of Julian's Santa Barbara Villate, very place where they once spent nights entwined. The image of Valentina's flawless skin and sculpted curves, like a living Hellenistic statue in his private gallery, shattered something inside Amelia. Their sanctuary had become her betrayal's stage. But the blow had not yet landed fully. The next message outlined a weekend plan. No wife. Just you and me, at the Malibu beach house. Amelia had steeled herself for any marital drama, yet never imagined her husband categorizing wife as an optional spectator to his tryst. Finally, the last message, an uncompromising verdict appeared. "She doesn't even know who you are, Julian. It's all just a power game I control." The stark black text on white screen crackled like thunder across a clear sky. A cold fury surged through Amelia's veins, washing away every ounce of bitterness, every shred of pain. Each line of those messages had injected a merciless venom. She was no longer the devoted wife. She was the defeated pawn in a ruthless game she had never fully grasped. Amelia set the phone on the coffee table, her fingers shaking as they curled around the gleaming leather-bound book beside it. She faced the large mirror mounted on the wall, her reflection in the glittering gown, now foreign to her own eyes. The woman staring back still possessed a haunting beauty, but the warmth in her gaze had given way to hatred and a razor-sharp resolve. She crossed to the balcony, pushing open the door to the ink-black night. The ocean breeze swept in, carrying the lullaby of crashing wave sand, unspoken reminder that wounds, even those the soul endures, require time to heal. Yet Amelia knew tonight she would not shed a single tear. The life growing within her, the hope, the future of her family deserved every ounce of her remaining strength. Taking a deep, steadying breath, she cradled her belly, as though drawing courage from within, and whispered to herself, "No one has the right to turn me into a victim. Marriage is not a stage for others to perform." The cold fire in her veins transformed into unyielding steel. She turned back into the living room, darkness at her back like a herald of a new beginning, one of confrontation, of honest questions, and, if necessary, the courage to walk away without regret. In that still moment, the distant strains of the gala's orchestral theme seemed to echo through the quiet, a solemn reminder that true power resides in honesty and self-respect. Tonight, the oud's enchantment held no sway over her, for she had reclaimed her own scent, the scent of a woman strong enough to face betrayal and repaint the contours of her own happiness. Night had deepened into silence when Amelia closed her eyes and tuned in to the steady rhythm of Julian's breathing beside her. The pale moonlight streamed through the curtains, etching slender silver lines across his face, and the warmth of his body still radiated against the sheets. She flexed her fingers, brushing them softly across the remnants of her evening gown draped over the sofa, then gingerly lifted his phone from the pillow. It was time for a decisive moment. She needed to maintain her perfect facade, while her mind had already become that of a warrior. Amelia, petite girl from a tranquil Oregon town, whose love for art once knew no bounds, was no longer content to paint serene natural landscapes. Throughout her pregnancy, her maternal instincts had honed her into the ultimate protector for the life growing within her. She had drawn canvases awash in peaceful hues. Now, her mental sketch was cluttered with battleground strategies for survival. She moved deliberately, wiping away any fingerprint smudges from the screen as though an artist erasing a stray brushstroke. Every oily trace had to vanish, for the image of the dutiful daughter-in-law was not just a mask, it was the only shield she had until her plan reached fruition. Before nestling beneath the covers, Amelia drew the quilt up to her chest and sat motionless in the darkness. The faint glow of his phone flickered as she opened an incognito browser and navigated to the secret folder she'd long ago titled Escape. Each subfolder marked a stage of her strategy: find a lawyer, organize documents, hidden bank account, temporary shelter. This was no selfish flight. It was her reclamation of life's reins, both for herself and the child she would soon cradle. While Julian slept soundly beside her, she envisioned her vast mental easel, a painting that appeared tranquil on the surface, but concealed inky swaths of black beneath, secrets, boundaries not to be breached. She was the author of this life, and the time had come to draft a new chapter, where deceit would find no foothold. Her weary, tear-filled eyes hovered over the screen listing reputable family law attorneys in Los Angeles. A few names rang familiar, yet she selected the woman known for defending mothers' rights, a future avatar of Amelia herself, should she face the courtroom's glare. Next, she opened an online banking account at a small regional bank, entirely separate from Julian's sphere. The funds she had quietly accumulated from selling paintings under a pseudonym, along with savings he remained blissfully unaware of, would serve as her financial bulwark for the first month. Amid figures and addresses, she recalled mornings in her humble Oregon studio, when sunlight filtered through a wooden frame to illuminate a wildflower valley she had captured in oils. Then, she painted with unfettered passion. Now, ensconced in luxurious surroundings, she longed to reclaim that authenticity, a life unshadowed by ambition or betrayal. She taped a post-it note to the screen. Contact house painter. Create safe space. Then she erased it, lest Joth family's devoted handyman catch a glimpse. Step by step, Amelia was erecting an impregnable fortress for herself and her child, to depart at the opportune moment. Her heart throbbed with both eagerness and trepidation. She understood she must project calm around Julian, letting no hint of suspicion slip. Come morning, she would speak to him softly, as if nothing had changed, and resume her radiant smile as the contented wife. Yet beneath that veneer, the threads of feigned happiness would guide her to a pivotal confrontation, forcing Julian to face reality, or face the consequences of his own making. She closed her eyes again, letting her worries fall away, restoring her everyday composure at least on the surface. But her heart had awakened. Her mind had sketched the path ahead. The child within her was her faith, her driving force. Julian's even, steady breath reminded her of that. In her mind, Amelia murmured with resolute clarity, I will not let my child grow up in a house of lies. And so, in the hushed grandeur of that hilltop mansion, a silent warrior rose. The night was pure white, yet her blueprint was vivid with color, steadfast, sharp, and brimming with hope. Night fell gently over Santa Monica as Amelia slipped into the discreet cafe tucked away at the end of the seaside lane. The rough-hewn wooden door creaked softly behind her, leaving the city's clamor outside and welcoming her into a hush of warm amber light. Amelia chose a secluded corner where the candle on the table cast just enough glow to reveal her face, her eyes alight with resolve. Her lips curved in a faint, knowing smile, her stance unshakably poised. She inhaled deeply, feeling her heartbeat slow and steady after a day spent compressing her plan into action. It wasn't long before Nora Caldwell materialized. The woman was slender, her dark hair cut in a tomboyish crop, clad in a sleek black leather jacket and jeans. Her gaze was as sharp as a blade, reflecting both hard-earned experience and unspoken secrets. At first glance, Nora hardly resembled a professional hacker, let alone a former FBI operative, but that was precisely what made her so credible. No frills, no sales pitch, just raw, unvarnished capability tempered by icy tenacity. Amelia set her steaming espresso on the table, her determination radiating. Leaning forward, she whispered, "Thank you for coming. I'm not here for advice on a friendly reconciliation. I'm here to uncover the truth and protect my child." Her tone remained calm, yet each word carried the weight of a woman who refuses to tolerate deceit. Nora offered a half smile, delaying her response as she drew deeply on her filtered cigarette, the lone wisp of smoke in that silent room. When the glow of the ember flickered out, she met Amelia's eyes. Valentina Moriaush's powerful, wealthy, the star of LA's design scene. But behind that glittering facade lie secrets. And Julian, he's hiding assets far beyond what anyone imagines. Nora's voice was measured, yet it struck at Amelia's core like a finely honed dagger. Amelia nodded, a flicker of hope sparking in her gaze. I need you to uncover everything. The secret bank accounts, the covert transactions with Valentina, even the Malibu beach house she rented for her wife-free weekends. I'm not seeking a quiet divorce. I want an unassailable exit, leverage so strong he won't dare come after me. She lifted her cup and drained the espresso in one decisive sip. As though drawing fresh strength, Nora tapped ash into the tray, then leaned in. Her eyes gleamed. Exactly what we'll do. I know the backdoor links to the offshore accounts and shell companies Julian uses to dodge taxes and conceal wealth. Valentina, despite her prestige, has too many loose ends she can't evade our scrutiny. Once we expose the truth, he will lose everything: his supposed honor, his standing in high society. Amelia's fist clenched on the table, breath quick but conviction unwavering. And once it's all public, I will pledge not to target his career, so long as he leaves me and our child in peace. The greatest leverage is protecting our child's future. Her voice softened then, imbued with fierce maternal resolve. Nora nodded, her gaze steel-hard. That leverage will be the sharpest arrow in our quiver. He loves his child, fears disgrace, dreads contempt. When we release the evidence, bank records, flirtatious correspondence, hidden payment, she'll have nowhere left to turn. And you, Amelia, will emerge from this marriage utterly free, child in your arms, and an untouchable position in your own right. The mellow strains of jazz drifted from the bar, mingling with the hushed whispers of a few patrons. The air felt charged under the gravity of their pact. Amelia drew in a slow, steady breath, savoring the warmth of her final cup of coffee for the day. She looked up and met Nora's eyes, resolute. "Let's begin right now." Nora smiled faintly, then slid a tiny USB drive across the table into Amelia's hand. "Here are some raw data I've already gathered. IP addresses, contract copies, bank transfers. By next week, you'll have a full dossier with financial proof and a rollout plan. He won't see this coming. He still thinks you're a helpless, pregnant wife." Amelia returned a small, triumphant smile, the smile of a victor at the dawn of a fierce campaign. She tucked the USB into her jacket pocket and rose. Side by side, the two formidable women melted into the Santa Monica night, burdened and emboldened by the secrets they carried. For an instant, the moonlit ocean glimmered in silent congratulations. Amelia had secured an ally and the leverage to reclaim her life. Night fell heavily on her first evening away from the mansion, yet Amelia did not steal a single minute of rest. She sat at her desk while the weak glow of the lamp filtered through the window pane, illuminating each contract and bank statement spread before her. The weight of a life on the precipice of transformation lay squarely upon her shoulders, yet her eyes burned bright with resolve. For in the next 72 hours, every task must be completed quietly, but with the unwavering decisiveness of bold brushstrokes across a grand canvas. She began with the small paintings the world had never known. Under the pseudonym Isadora Lane, she had crafted dozens of under-the-radar masterpieces for the city's elite. Amelia reached out to her anonymous art broker, dispatching each canvas through a secured courier service in discreet, sealed packages. Every piece sold for a handsome sum, furnishing her with an independent line of credit. The funds from those silent children of her spirit, long dormant in her studio, now flowed in gentle deposits to her private account. With the final sale wrapped up, she moved on to the next stage, the charitable foundation she managed. It was a modest organization dedicated to supporting women entrepreneurs, its budget so low-key that Julian never noticed. Amelia opened an incognito browser, logged into the foundation's banking portal, and deftly reallocated pledged ransom, diverted into her newly opened Nevada account under a shell corporation. The remainder dispersed to partner charities yet to receive their checks. Every transaction left no trace beyond the balanced figures in the internal ledgers. By the second night's midnight hour, she set out for San Diego. Her heart raced, yet her hand was steady. Amelia murmured to herself, as a painter would select a hue, each move must be exact. Arriving at a small suburban bank, she rented a safety deposit box under her true name, signing the agreement with measured calm. Inside lay her art contracts and sale documents and, more crucially, encrypted files containing account details, passwords, and identity verifications. Within that steel vault, alongside tangible valuables, she hid the future she was determined to protect. Returning to the mansion, barely 48 hours had passed, and Julian remained blissfully ignorant. He was still basking in the triumph of acquiring his Silicon Valley rival, a billion-dollar coup that elevated his fame and power. At a triumphant partner gala, he beamed with pride, his eyes shimmering with self-satisfaction as guests showered him with praise. Meanwhile, Amelia was repainting the masterpiece of her own life, not with oils or light, but with numbers, strategy, and ironclad resolve. She recalled the times Julian had called her naive, mocking the innocence in her outlook. Back then, she painted flowers and pastoral scenes, never mastering the sharp contours of power. But now, her artistic instincts had evolved into the mindset of a strategist. She knew her husband's every maneuver. Every secret sale, each fund transfer, each contract locked in the safety deposit box. Together they formed the final stroke of a refined yet fiercely resolute escape plan. On the dawn of the third day, as the sun's first rays crept across the horizon, Amelia placed a hand on her belly, the tiny life waiting to be safeguarded, and smiled with quiet confidence. All the resources she needed lay beyond Julian's reach, untouchable, unseizable, undetectable. She had transformed her passion for art and her benevolent work into the strongest shield imaginable. That afternoon, Amelia entered her husband's office carrying a steaming cup of coffee. Julian looked up at her with an expression of affectionate warmth, unaware that behind her gentle smile lay a desert of deliberate deception she had meticulously charted. He asked, "Did you hear about today's deal?" She inclined her head, replying softly, "You handled it brilliantly." Outside, the brilliant afternoon sunlight danced on the white walls, casting prismatic beams across the room. Inside, Amelia knew that one wrong move from Julian would unravel the curtain she had so carefully concealed. At that moment, the tapestry of corporate power he so proudly wove would be torn to shreds. Yet until that day arrived, she continued to smile because, like a master painter, she had already completed the greatest work of her life, the portrait of her own freedom, rendered in impeccable detail and rendered utterly inviolable. Night stretched on in hushed intensity as Amelia and Nora sat facing one another in the covert office, the pale glow of a single lamp slicing through the mist that clung to the windowpane. Nora placed before Amelia a hefty dossier bound in smooth black leather, bearing only a small label, Moreau Holdings. She drew in a steadying breath, her eyes alight with fierce dedication and a trace of hardship, then spoke in a low, measured voice. "Valentina Moreau is more than Julian's mistress. She occupies a far greater role. She is Philippe Moreau's daughter." Amelia's brow furrowed and her heart pounded. She had heard whispers of Philippe Moreau's status as one of France's most formidable financiers, but she had never imagined such a connection. Nora flipped to the first page. The figures and notes crashed into Amelia like thunder. Over a decade ago, Julian's Crosstech engineered a takeover bid for Moreau Holdings. Philippe was forced to concede, retreating with losses in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Since then, he has nursed a single, consuming ambition to exact his revenge. The soft lamp flickered, casting each inked word into stark relief, carving deeper into the labyrinth of conspiracy. Nora continued. Valentina, with her dazzling poise and prodigious design talent, was nothing but a pawn in Philippe's masterstroke. She covertly ingratiated herself with Julian, masking her schemes behind a facade of intimacy. The goal: to collapse Crosstech's stock price and clear the way for Philippe's hedge fund to acquire it at a bargain price. Her tone was clinical, yet the air grew suffocating. Amelia felt waves of fury surge through her chest. The man she had loved not only betrayed his vows, but now threatened her family's legacy as well. Hands trembling, she turned the page to the insider trading log. Valentina leaked Julian's merger and acquisition strategy to Black Peak Capital. That intel is now valued in the hundreds of millions, enough to trigger a catastrophic sell-off of Crosstech shares. Nora leaned forward, her voice a sharpened edge. This weekend in Santa Barbara is the pivotal moment. At the oceanfront villa, Valentina will harvest the remaining classified data, financial reports, internal emails, merger plans. At our signal, the hedge fund will unleash the sell order. Amelia could feel the bricks of her husband's corporate empire crumbling. She recalled Julian's triumphant smile as he unveiled his Silicon Valley acquisition. Now, That very ambition could hurl Crosstech into oblivion. Her voice quivered but rang with resolve. If this succeeds, it won't just be my marriage ruined. Thousands of his employees will lose their livelihoods. They will plummet together with the share price. I cannot allow that. Nora nodded, her eyes shining with unbreakable determination. Exactly. He underestimated Valentina. Now, we must reverse the tide and catch Philippe's network off guard. I will track Valentina's digital trail IP logs, leaked documents, and prove Moreau Holdings' complicity. Once we have ironclad evidence, we will go public, forcing Philippe to withdraw and halting the hedge fund's sell-off. Amelia gripped the dossier as though it were a torch, feeling the weight of her duty. She thought of the innocent life growing within her unblemished soul. She would protect at all costs. She curled her fingers around a small USB drive containing her lawyer's documents and a meticulously arranged financial plan. I will join you in the field. I won't merely await your findings. I will confront Valentina personally, under a different guise, gathering proof on site in Santa Barbara. A secret smile flickered across Nora's lips, her excitement barely contained. Your involvement will perfect our strategy. Philippe and Valentina will never suspect that a pregnant wife could be so cunning. We will show them the power of a mother defending her child. Deeper into the night, the two resolute women remained at the table, mapping out every detail of their weekend operation. The warm lantern light dimmed softly, but within them blazed an unquenchable fiera. Fervent vow to uphold justice, safeguard love, and preserve their family's heritage. The lamp in Nora's office cast a pale, relentless glow that seemed determined to etch every word into Amelia's mind as she pored over the latest investigative findings. Valentina Moreau. Nora sighed softly, her eyes gleaming with commitment and a trace of regret, is not merely Julian's scheming mistress. She was once your closest friend in college. Amelia gasped inwardly. Her heart skipped a beat. In an instant, the image of Valentina, her sunlit hair tumbling in waves, that youthful, inviting smile surfaced through the veil of memory. Nora pressed on. After your very first art exhibition, when Julian stood quietly behind his camera lens, Valentina, accidentally, spread rumors that you'd used forged invitations to secure VIP seating. She envied the way Julian's gaze lingered on you above all others. You forgave her because sisterhood seemed unbreakable. Yet now, she has returned to exact her revenge. Amelia closed her eyes and drifted back to those nights a decade ago. She and Valentina, side by side in the studio, dreaming of a life of grandeur and artistic acclaim. She recalled trusting every word Valentina uttered even when she whispered that Amelia was a naive duckling in the cutthroat world of Los Angeles art. Amelia had wrapped her friend in her arms and assured her that misunderstandings would fade. Now that old pain surged anew. The betrayal extended beyond Julian, the man in whom she had placed her utmost faith, to Valentina, the friend she once cherished like a sister. She realized that her past forgiveness had never healed the wound. Instead, it had buried it, allowing the injury to fester until it raged back to life. Nora laid a steady hand on Amelia's shoulder, her eyes cold and resolute. It is precisely from that buried memory that we will turn the tables. Recall every detail of your confidences, your habits, her interests, the secrets you once shared. She believes you never suspect a thing. Amelia nodded, her confidence reigniting. She delved into her recollections. Valentina's obsession with Amelia's rare book collection, first editions of Renaissance art that she borrowed and never returned. Her fascination with Amelia's sturdy calling cards, which she'd requested to show off to her designer acquaintances. Amelia remembered how Valentina would meticulously describe each gallery detail, even recreating Amelia's paintings, without permission, signing them merely as studies. There, Nora interjected. Her collecting habit is our key. We will craft a subtle trap, a forged sketch of a sensitive nature implicating Julian and Valentina, Placed somewhere she is bound to find it, perhaps the small meeting room in the Santa Barbara villa. When Valentina steals it, we will have documented every move. Security footage, IP logs. This will transform her into the prime suspect and simultaneously expose Moreau Holdings' conspiracy. Amelia's lips curved into the smile of an artist who has just laid down the crucial stroke on a blank canvas. "And Julian?" she asked. "He's merely blinded by his mistress's loyalty, missing every warning sign." Silently, Nora powered up her laptop and opened a series of proof files. Emails, transaction ledgers, VPN connections. We will merge the evidence of the leaked deal with proof of Valentina's collusion, and then broadcast it to the public and the Securities Commission. Julian will have no escape. Crosstech's shares will not recover while his honor and family name lie in tatters. The room's air thickened with the combined weight of past wounds and the promise of future restoration. Amelia recalled her younger heart's belief that forgiveness was the highest virtue. Now she understood. Forgiveness without remembrance only buries the blade, waiting for a moment to strike anew. She would harness that very kindness to shield herself, to shield her child, and to shield her family's legacy. "Next week," Nora whispered. "When Valentina arrives in Santa Barbara, she will not suspect that she has stepped onto our stage. The secure door is locked. Cameras are positioned throughout the garden, and my team stands ready to intercept the counterfeit sketch. When that moment arrives, our plan will play out in full, and the tide will turn." Amelia gently caressed her pregnant belly, her heart steady. "I am no longer the naive girl of the past. I am a seasoned woman of strategy and resolve. I will use my own history, my own trust in Valentinato unseat her." And beneath the soft glow of the lamp, the two powerful women exchanged a conspiratorial smile, not one born of blind hatred, but of two warriors poised to create their most triumphant masterpiece. The Saturday air was crisp, and dawn still blushed pink over the Malibu shoreline as Amelia slipped quietly from the mansion. She carried no large suitcase, only a small, soft gray leather valise containing a few simple outfits: a white button-down shirt, high-waisted jeans, a thin cashmere sweater, and a pair of black sneakers. She allowed herself a faint smile as her fingertip brushed the rolled canvas of her favorite painting, an Oregon country landscapean ode to her youth, and those long days spent blending pigments on stretched linen. Finally, she tucked into her bag an ultrasound photograph, carefully sealed in an envelope, her most precious cargo of all, a testament to the love and responsibility she carried for the little life within her. Before leaving that quiet room, Amelia paused at Julian's desk, a shrine to memories both sweet and bitter. From the top drawer, she withdrew a Tiffany blue box, the very box Julian had used to present Valentina with that necklace. This time, nestled inside was her wedding ring, the emblem of a vow, a marriage now shattered. With gentle precision, she centered the box on his desk, without a note, without a folding of paper. Her gesture spoke volumes. "I have seen everything. I know the truth." Morning light slanted through the window, setting the Tiffany box aglow as though it were a warning beacon. Amelia lingered a moment, studying the ring, once the binding token of Lovenow, a symbol of betrayal and ambition. In that instant, a storm of emotions swelled within her: contempt, anger, but above all, a fierce affirmation of self-worth. She understood that from this moment forward, nothing could hold her back. Crossing the marble foyer, her silhouette traced cold geometric patterns on the walls. Her footsteps echoed softly across the floor, mingling with the seaside breeze drifting through the open entryway. Waiting at the door was the sleek black sedan Nora had arranged. There was no chauffeur, only a loyal assistant at the wheel, nodding politely, but saying nothing. Amelia opened the rear door and slipped into the back seat with serene composure. Her little valise settled neatly beside her. Her gaze flicked upward to the security camera mounted in the corner of the ceiling, an unblinking eye that had witnessed so many dramas unfold overnight. This time, when she stared directly into its lens, her eyes were steely, unwavering, unafraid. That look carried a message loud and clear. You were wrong. This is not just a departure. It is a declaration of war on your false marriage and your arrogance. The sedan rolled away, leaving the silent mansion behind. Rows of olive and cypress trees swayed in the coastal wind, as if bidding her farewell. Morning fog crept along the narrow lane toward the water her path to a new chapter in life. In that ethereal haze, Amelia resembled a proud phantom, unburdened by the past, yet bearing the full strength and experience of motherhood. Ahead, the coastal road curved beneath a pale sunrise filtering through the mist. The car glided past rugged cliffs, while sea breezes teased the crack of the window, carrying the scent of leather and canvas. Inside, Amelia remained silent, offering only a slight, resolute smile as she felt the tension within her ease. Her liberation was not wrought by violence, but through calm determination. To protect her child, to reclaim freedom and autonomy. As the mansion receded behind the veil of fog, Julian would awaken to a maelstrom of emotions, a vanished wife, a lost future, and incontrovertible evidence captured by his own security system. He would find the Tiffany box open, the wedding ring gone from the soft cushion, and the camera footage of Amelia's resolute gaze. That would be the final blow beyond repair. Amelia leaned against the window, her eyes drifting over shards of sunlight dancing on the ocean. Challenges awaited her on the horizon, but beside her burned an unwavering conviction. She had chosen to rise, no longer the victim of power and deceit. She was an artist, a mother-Ann now, the architect of her own destiny, her final stroke on the canvas complete. The sedan disappeared into the mist, leaving behind not just a closed chapter, but a new beginning where Amelia, and the child she carried, would rediscover peace, freedom, and genuine happiness. Early Monday morning, with dawn's first light just peeking over the Malibu horizon, Julian Cross drove his SUV back up the winding hill to the family estate from Santa Barbara. In his chest still fluttered the light-headed thrill of victory. The hostile takeover of his rival had been a masterstroke, catapulting Crosstech to unrivaled heights. Yet as the iron gates swished open, revealing an empty courtyard and silent corridors, his heart clenched tight. Stepping into the living room, Julian stared in disbelief at the scene before him. The immaculate white sofa had been neatly pushed against the wall. The drapes remained drawn, but no sign of life lingered. On his desk where Mont Blanc pens, strategic plans, and calendars usually lay scattered addressed only one item: a small Tiffany box, lid ajar. With trembling fingers, he lifted it to reveal his wedding ring. Simple, yet gleaming with an undeniable finality. He whispered into the hush, "Amelia?" Panic surged through him. Julian fumbled for his phone and dialed his attorney's office, then immediately engaged a high-profile private investigator in Los Angeles. "I need to know my wife's whereabouts. She cannot simply vanish," he pleaded. Yet the investigator's reply was chilling. Every permit trail, fingerprint record, and travel itinerary had been expunged. No credit card charges had registered since Saturday. Her phone rang unanswered, then went silent. Amid the wreckage of his personal life, an anonymous email slid into his inbox. The subject line read plainly, "Comprehensive report, Crosstech and Moreau." Hands shaking, Julian opened the attachments to find cold, unyielding figures, offshore bank accounts, wire transfers to a shell corporation in Nevada, and an invoice for Valentina's Santa Barbara villa rental. Word and PDF files unveiled damning proof Valentina had leaked internal merger details, enough to spark a sell-off worth hundreds of millions. The final attachment was a notice from the Securities Oversight Commission. An insider trading investigation had been launched against Crosstech. As if that blow were not enough, his family's financial advisor called, "The stock is plummeting. Without urgent intervention, the company's valuation could collapse within days." Before he could absorb those words, his father's voice cut through the chaos in a grim tone. "Julian, what have you done to our legacy? If you cannot salvage Crosstech's reputation and finances immediately, you will forfeit your inheritance. I will not allow our family to be dragged down by your hubris." One grim blow followed another, and Julian's legs nearly buckled. He wondered, how did it all come crashing down so fast? Had his blind ambition, his relentless drive for power, overlooked the woman who had stood beside him? Memories of quiet dinners and unspoken promises flickered through his mind, now reduced to shattered fragments. Desperate, he tore through the mansion in search of any clue. Finally, he paused outside the art studio place Amelia once used for her gentle sketches. The door stood slightly ajar. Dim light pooled inside. On the easel, amid tubes of fresh paint, was a single canvas, propped at an angle, the tender portrait of a mother cradling her child beneath a golden sunset. Soft oranges, pinks, and purples melded into a scene both serene and heartrending. In one corner, a slender, elegant inscription read, "Happiness is not power. Choose freedom." Julian froze, fingertips grazing the painted sky. In that moment, he snapped awake from his fever dream. The wedding ring in his hand, the empty Tiffany box set, all paled beside the life and trust of the woman he once loved. A single tear traced its way down his cheek as he slumped forward. He understood then that he had lost not to an external adversary, but to his own arrogance and neglect. His marriage lay in ruins, his family's future teetered on the brink, and his hard-earned status lay in shards at his feet. In that absolute solitude, Julian grasped a profound truth. No influence eclipses love, and no legacy endures like the bond of two sincere hearts. And within the empty grandeur of the mansion, the echo of that painted sunset lingered a late reminder that sometimes the bravest choice is to relinquish power in order to preserve genuine happiness. 6 months later, Amelia awoke each morning in the cozy wooden house, nestled on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. Gentle sunlight streamed through the windows, painting the wooden floor with ribbons of glimmering light. That tranquil scenebird song in the air, the faint scent of pine needles felt like a living watercolor, a world apart from the frantic pace of Los Angeles she had left behind. She was no longer a high-powered executive, but a woman in an apron, her hands tinged with paint, her face beaming as she taught eager children to paint in the little studio behind her garden. Beside her sat Liam, now 6 months old, with wide, innocent eyes and tiny legs that kicked with delighted energy whenever his mother lifted him into her arms. Every child's scribble and smudge was treated by Amelia as a precious creation. She guided them in mixing colors, in channeling their feelings through each brushstroke. In her heart, happiness was found in these quiet moments, when Liam pursed his lips, pondering the blank page, when he dipped chubby fingers first into blues, then reds, and when his clear, joyous laughter rang through the paint-scented room. One weekend afternoon, as the golden sunset bathed the patio tiles in a warm glow, the front door gently creaked open. Julian appeared in a faded button-down shirt and simple khakis, his hair slightly tousled. Gone was the confidence of his Tom Ford suits, the proud gleam in his eyes as a corporate titan. Instead, his gaze was sorrowful, brimming with remorse and a desperate longing for redemption. He stepped forward and fell to one knee on the woolen welcome mat, his voice trembling. "Amelia, I was wrong. Power blinded me, stealing both my reason and the love I owe you for you and for our child. I give up the CEO's chair, and I will sell the majority of my shares in Crosstech to turn the past into a lesson and begin Anna as a father, as a true husband." Silence followed, broken only by the rustle of leaves outside. Amelia looked down at the man who had once wounded her so deeply, yet now displayed genuine contrition. She remembered each tear she shed upon discovering his betrayal, the many nights she lay awake vowing to reclaim her life. She had built a new existence, independent of any man's power. and now here he knelt at the threshold of her new peace, yearning for a second chance. She nodded without a word, her voice steady. You want that chance not only for yourself, but for our son. Liam deserves a father who will rise after every fall. Seeing hope glint in their child's bright eyes, she understood that her love for him outweighed any past wounds. Yet her heart remained cautious. Are you certain you can keep that promise? Not for the sake of old love, but because our son deserves his father. Julian offered a small tear-streaked smile as he nodded with resolve. I will prove it. Every day, I will live for our child, for this little family of ours. Weeks passed, and they worked side by side to restyle the kitchen, bake treats for Liam, and mix paints for the class. Simplicity became their bond, no more lavish parties or boardroom showdowns. In the evenings, when Liam slept soundly, they sat together on the porch sipping hot tea, talking about tomorrow, a new painting series, dreams of taking Liam to art galleries, journeys they would share. Each conversation carried hope and the promise of rebuilt trust. But one question still hung in the air. Will Julian truly keep his vow? Will Amelia's forgiveness become the very strength that heals or merely open the door to fresh wounds? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you feel the power of forgiveness and Amelia's journey of liberation, please like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss the next chapters. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and join us for more of this heartfelt story.